Hello everyone, this is Greyshot, and today I'm talking about Company of Heroes 3 Battlegroups. So over the last few weeks I've been very busy, and I kind of missed some updates that they released about the Battlegroups. For those who don't know, and I'll pull up a thing right here about that kind of covers a little bit. So every sort of week they've kind of releasing updates on different parts, and I think the last thing I covered was the Wehrmacht and going over some of their missions and stuff like that. They talked a little about like destruction and other things like that over the past few weeks, and you know, it's fine. I don't want to make a video every week covering little details, but if it's something important or substantial, I do want to kind of cover it. So in this capacity, I'm going over their releases. In this case, the US Battlegroups, and it's okay. So it says on here British, right? So, and I was like, okay, I'll go over the Brits. Except it's not the Brits. The Brits are the Wehrmacht, apparently, as they're going over them. So again, this is kind of going over both, so, you know, and kind of give you an idea of what these battle groups are. But in this case, there are 4 battle groups. In the US department, we have the Airborne and the Armored. In the Wehrmacht department, we have the Breakthrough and Luftwaffe. So now you may be thinking, oh, Breakthrough is just armor based, and let's say Luftwaffe is Air Force. Not necessarily. I find it interesting because it's different enough based on what you pick that you can have 2 completely different strategies depending on how you want. Now again, let's go over more details. We'll start with the US because that was first. By the way, they keep releasing information and not information, like little trailers and stuff like that. So I'll link one of them down below that Striker let me know about, because again, I was like, oh, and yeah, they dropped a bit about me, and I was like, oh yeah, there I am again. Okay, man, I look like a dweeb, but hopefully people find this interesting. Every time I see myself on camera, I'm like, oh god. But that, look, you can ask any content creator. They're like, yeah, they'll do a video, and then they're like, hey, watch yourself, and you're like, no. But anyway, at the very least, being truthful about everything I'm saying in those videos about me being excited, interested in what they do, and hoping that everything that the community says, the guys are hearing. So anyway, we'll see what they do, of course, in the future. Hopefully this doesn't become a situation like Battlefield 2042. But the good news is, unlike Battlefield 24 that announces it and releases it within a few months, and literally just, well, releases and, what is it? They say beta, but it's more of, oh god, it was even worse shaped than a pre-alpha, which is hilarious to think, because the pre-alpha for this game is supposedly way in advance of its official release. So anyway, I find that stuff fascinating. So let's go over the US Airborne and Armored. So again, these kind of don't go over everything. I'm going to give a generalized example, but for the Airborne Battle Group, we got Pathfinders, which I saw so much in the tournament that I've been casting. You got scout units can be trained as Pathfinders. So does that mean a scout squad is upgraded? Anyway, able to capture territory quickly, light up the battlefield with flares. That's good, because that provides a recon that the enemy can't. I mean, that'd be cool if they could shoot out of the sky, but a recon that they can't quickly deal with, and even hold their own against early engagements. Could you upgrade the Pathfinders with bar finders? That's my question. How effective are Pathfinders when given bars? Because bar finders are no joke. Bar finders are pretty solid stuff in terms of code 2. Or you give them LMGs if you have like infantry company or, you know, any other company with it. Let's see. These squads are vital for getting lay on the land before the invasion begins, which makes sense. They're good for scouting, good for fast deployment, taking, let's say, a position in a building, holding the enemy back until you get some better stuff, like paratroopers. When working behind enemy lines, sometimes the best source of reinforcements is from above. Call in a loitering transport plane that reinforce any any friendly squads within its area. Whether reinforcing riflemen or team weapons, this is a rapid way to boost your forces. That's cool. I like that. That's essentially a small change where they did with the Luftwaffe ground forces in the OKW, where essentially you have this loiter that provides air support, but then as well, Fallschirmjägers can be reinforced within that zone. So essentially that's a variation, except this like goes to a lot more than just a single unit, which is so cool. Because I could easily see a situation where the enemy is attacking and you're just like constantly reinforcing from the sky and they just drop down. You probably, you know, have to worry about them actually getting to your troop and reinforcing it and possibly being in a, you know, more vulnerable situation while the enemy is let's just go on a hypothetical, just doing an armored charge at you. You might be in a more vulnerable state, but it still could be worth it. Or just, you know, not having to retreat all your men to an ambulance halfway across the map or all the way back to your base. So that's cool. That's really cool. Carpet bombing. There's nothing quite like 3 B-25 bombers. I mentioned Battlefield, but now you got me on Battlefield 1943, and you have my attention. Delivering a heavy payload over the target area. Mark the area with red smoke and watch your enemy turn and run at the sight of oncoming onslaught. Oh, they better run. Also pretty effective if you need a few if you just want to level Italy, just go right ahead. Just call in the bombers, which are a little bit more expensive. They're 4 points to unlock, so we'll take time to do that. So with this unlock, what do we get? What's the goal here? So you don't get any initial stuff, or maybe you do. No, you do. You can pick it if you want. That'd be the Pathfinder squad and a smoke bombing run. I've been seeing also so much smoke in the tournament. We got a recon loiter as well. So again, it just surveys the battlefield consistently rather than a recon pass, which is just one strafe. So you can immediately get smoke, immediately get pathfinders, and that would also help you against enemy NGs because you could just smoke and just charge and, you know, breach the building. You get the M1919 Browning HMG Paradrop. So is this, I'm assuming, is not just a weapon upgrade for your men. This is a MG that you would place, but it's a Browning, so I'm assuming it's an upgrade. So is this actual physical upgrades you would get? Look, I know it's weird to say that, but there's an MG42, right? And you got the LMG, right? And then I'm assuming the HMG is the heavy version, which is the actual like 50 cal heavy machine gun. So if that's the case, and you're dropping in this heavy machine gun, that could be also really good for, you know, let's say you call in, you know, let's say a rifleman, you drop it in the building, you know they're coming in a choke point, have the MG down to lock that point down, so that at least you can hold them back. That could be good. That could be nice. And I'm guessing it's the heavier variation that suppresses infantry rather than a simple infantry upgrade. But again, sometimes I'm wrong. You know, that never happens. But sometimes. We also get a supply drop, which I'm assuming just gives you supplies, like fuel, munitions. Paradrop reinforcement. I see that as a win. I see that as super good. Dual P-47 rocket strike. Now, I'm assuming, is this similar to the airstrikes of KO-2 where you have 2 planes loitering, attacking? Compared to a carpet bombing run, I like the carpet bombing run a little bit more just for its explosive capacity, though I could see both being very good in its own right. And then as well, you get the paratrooper squad paradrop, so no matter what, you're gonna get that unit, and the anti-tank gun team paradrop. So is this just an anti-tank gun, or is this an actual crew that's with the anti-tank gun that'll make sure it's reinforced? Because that's really good in clutch when, of course, the enemy deploys armor you're not expecting it. You can at least get AT relatively quickly to the battlefield and to the front. Because again, you have to make it, then you have to bring it up to the front. AT guns are notoriously slower than your base infantry, so you know it takes a little while for them to get up. So that could be really good. And also, it looks like it's very low cost, so you could easily get a lot of these units without requiring a lot of CP. Again, command points, don't forget that Company of Hero 3's Battlegroups, they are exclusive choices. For example, you must start with the Pathfinders for a strong opening, or forgo them for an HMG paradrop once you hit 1 CP. Exclusive choices in this battle group will enable you to pick and choose what the army needs. When it already got a half track to handle your reinforcement needs, grab the supply drop instead. Facing massive enemy panzers, opt for P-47 instead of carpet bombing. Or you carpet bomb the panzers and you hopefully snare them and stop them from retreating. Just saying. Again, they haven't really given much detail about, like, when buildings fall, do they hurt vehicles or not. I'm kind of curious if you could, like, cause or certain stuff behind it and then just, like, trap the armor somehow in there and just carpet bomb them. You know, hypothetically speaking, that would be awesome. What is that? What am I thinking? Oh, Ruse. The opening, like, first trailer for Ruse, when he's like, he allows the enemy to send all his panzers in, he traps them and just bombs them and, like, arties them to death with an invasion force. So, anyway, let's go over to the armored battle group. We have the assault engineer with bolster with an additional soldier. Okay. Improved combat performance with an M2 flamethrower. Okay, so they're actually going to be better, right? Because a rifle laughs at me all the time for the fact that apparently these guys are just not that interesting. In terms of, like, the assault engineer in Code 2 not being a frontline strong unit. Or at the very least, every time I use it, they just can't hold a candle to a lot of medium to stronger Axis units. Even though I want to play them like that. So maybe this game will allow that to be the case. Because again, with the flamethrower, you can easily burn people out of those, cover and garrison positions. And when the ground has been taken, get them back by mine lane duty. Okay, so it seems like very similar to Code 2 with what they do. The recovery vehicle, converted from a defunct M3 lead tank, this craned recovery tank can be called in to repair vehicles and structures in the field as well as recover allied and enemy vehicles. While the recovery process is time consuming, there's nothing quite like it. There's nothing quite like the look of the enemy's commander's face when they see their own stoogs raised from the dead. That's interesting. So, is it a decrewed unit, or is it actually dead? Like, if a tiger tank's carcass is lying on the ground, and I can guard it long enough, will it actually bring the tiger back to life? Like, I know I'll probably have to spend resources maybe on it, but that could be huge. The fact, I love how he's like raised from the dead, and I just put up, I'm gonna be putting up a zombie video soon, so also funny. Also, I have been putting up a lot of zombie videos. All right, then we got the M4A38E Sherman Task Force. This is spotting a 76mm main gun. Wait, better armor and some much needed suspension improvements. The Easy 8 is an armored vehicle to be reckoned with. Better than your standard M4 Sherman in every way and escorted on the premises with a rifleman squad escort. Okay, so this actually does confirm what I thought they might do it, right? Okay, so let's get into the basic stuff, and then I'll go into this now. So this task force is 2 units in one thing, right? That's what this is. So if that is the case, and this is a Sherman, right, that's coming onto the field of battle with another infantry unit, I'm curious to see how the community handles that. Because generally speaking, in Code 2, the more you can separate unit call-ins, the better. The more the community likes that, because that way they can get a half-track, but they don't have to worry about the guard troops in the half-track. They can call them in separately. This might be something the community might not care for that much, because it's so expensive, they're like, I'll just go for something else, and that kind of detracts them from getting it. So again, I'm kind of curious to see what the community thinks of that. Because in Code 2, it was against it. So maybe Code 3 is different enough that people like it. But again, I'm curious to see how much they change. So again, we got the assault engineers, instant, or veteran crews. That, I'm not a huge fan of veteran crews. Like, why would you send a crew out of a tank and the enemy could take your tank? Like, anyway. Field repairs, okay, that could be good. Or you got the recovery vehicle. Field repairs, I'm assuming, are just like places where you can build locations to instantly repair units. The recovery vehicle, I find, could be super good if you can defend it. If you could literally raise a tiger from the dead from its carcass, or, even a stoog or something, that could be massive. Very unique situations to use that in, but it could be a massive blow. War Machine, I'm assuming you're not calling in a literal Iron Man piece of armor. Although it would be amazing if you get like the 1940s Iron Man armor if that was in the What If series. Oh my god, the animation of that show is great. But him punching tigers and cutting them off, fantastic. I doubt you would get that. What most likely I'm assuming this is maybe a bonus for infantry and armor. Maybe like using the American industry bonus, you get decreased cost of stuff. Or maybe it's faster production, like for, again, part of the American production line. I'm assuming it's something like that, where it's either faster production or cheaper units. And that way you can produce more of them at a quicker rate. because if it's a unit, you assume they would call it that, like the Sherman EZA Task Force. So that's interesting. I do find it interesting as well that you could possibly go with War Machine if it is, let's say, hypothetically cutting down costs or increased production. You could then pump out a lot of other things pretty quick, like let's say the M8 Scott, which, okay, I'm not sure what Seek and Destroy is. That's unless it's like a marked target of sorts. Strength in Steel, maybe you get armored skirts for your armor, or maybe extra protection, something like that for vehicles. Fast Deploy, I'm assuming, is a faster deployment rate, which again, if that's there, then what's War Machine? So yeah, a lot of questions still, and they don't really go into that all that much. They kind of just do a generalized thing. Like specializing in vehicle crews for your vehicles means your Jeeps could be able to capture... capture territory. Right, I'm a moron. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. My apologies. I want to say this and not cut this out. So, vehicle crews have the ability to unlock stuff further. So, vehicle crews, they get 2 upgrades in themselves. I'm sorry, I completely forgot. I'm still thinking of coh-dev. But they get upgrades. You can do an upgrade to capture territory or do something else. So that makes sense. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. You can essentially get a better version of a tank out sooner. That could be good. Never mind. Veteran crews could be a good alternative to assault engineers. The M4 Sherman tanks could access the white phosphorus rounds on the offset. Is that strength and steel? Like a better ability? Is that what that is? Because they're saying it from the offset. So, or is that War Machine? Like, again, just a little clarification would be better. I get they're being vague. I wouldn't want, like, again, I'm fine with little bits of info. Don't tell me everything. Like, I am happy with the fact that Halo Infinite, I barely know anything about the campaign, and I'm very happy about that, and I can't wait to play the campaign. I really enjoy the multiplayer so far. But because I know so little, I can be surprised. And I'm very happy about that. Although, god damn it, YouTube, I hate the fact that literally I go on recommendations and there is, I'm not going to say what it is, but there's a thumbnail with a tag or a title that I'm like, you know, I would have really loved if I didn't know that was in the game. Really love the fact that just the surprise on my face for that. But thanks for putting it on YouTube. Whoever you are, and just spoiling it. Just oh, you're getting clicks, great. I don't mind getting clicks for videos that are informative, that are kind of giving you a basics, and then the rest they kind of, you know, showcase later. But I hate the fact when they're like immediately showing you it's not necessarily a spoiler, but it would have been a nice surprise to know about that stuff in the campaign without people knowing. But anyway, let's get into the other part of this, which is the Wehrmacht. And the Wehrmacht has the 2, the Battlegroup with Breakthrough and the Battlegroup with Luftwaffe. The Breakthrough has Assault Grenadiers, which is pretty much the same, except you upgrade them through a Grenadier squad to get them. You don't purchase a different unit. So that's fascinating in my eyes. That's fascinating. But it is close quarters, so again, you lack long range. Blitzkrieg, so again, when you do this, everything from armored vehicles to the Mighty Tiger tank receive an increased movement speed and perform better combat. Now, you might think I might be referencing encirclement for that, like, ability, but actually, I think a better approximation of that ability would be a combat blitz that the OKW get, because you get the speed boost and also you get the combat bonus. So, and then you get the Tiger tank, right? And being a Tiger tank in 43, this thing is going to be something that is going to be very hard for the Allies to take down. Because, again, you're dealing with an Allied force that is, generally speaking, I mean, like, yes, the Tiger could be neutralized from, like, flanking it or, you know, airstrikes or artillery. But generally, the armor would have a tough time penning the bastard through the front, right? At that time. You eventually would see better Allied armor to deal with it, but then eventually, like, they also thought the Panther was a heavy tank, so they're like, oh, there's very few of those, we'll be fine, and eventually they got out the better stuff, like the EZ8. But if we're seeing the EZ8 right now, right, if we're seeing that, and let me verify, the EZ8 was coming out when it would, like, let me verify that, because if I recall correctly, that was like what, 44? That thing was deployed? Easy 8 Sherman deployment, right? I want to know when it was on the battlefield. So, Easy 8s were deployed in 44, and they were obviously in production platforms in 1944. Okay, so we're seeing August 44. That's what I'm seeing, production. Like, and again, I don't mind that, but okay, so if you're wondering like why I'm so specific on that, it kind of gives me a basic idea of certain things, right? So if they're throwing in Easy 8s, and this is in mid 44, and we're still dealing with Italy, right? I'm going on that. Then the Panther is a possibility, because the Panther did show up in, was it Anzio? Or something along those lines in 1944. And again, the Allies thought it was a heavy tank, so like, okay, that's interesting. We'll hopefully not deal with many of those. A cue certain music, which is copyrighted, so I can't play it. But yeah, again, that kind of shows you maybe what units could or could not be there. I prefer units that are more unique and interesting. In terms of like not showing up in other games. Like that's where I want to see. I want to see units that are not in Code 2 and not in Code 1 that are unique to maybe Italy or unique to the Italian theater in general, right? Like the fact that they're throwing in like those like different German vehicles for the Wehrmacht, I like the fact they're doing that. I also wouldn't mind different variations of Panzer IIIs and other stuff like that. Hell, throw in a Panzer II. Because again, you see a lot more of those in that theater, in that front, than you do in, and again, especially because they're definitely, more suited early on in the campaigns of like Germany, then it would make sense for seeing a Tiger tank by the hundreds in late 42. Because there was only like 20 in North Africa, and there was like again, a handful in Italy. Most of them were shipped to the Soviets to be like, all right, we got a thing called Kursk we're going to be doing, so throw a lot more there. So again, I don't mind smaller units that are more unique. But again, with the Easy 8 being there and now the Tiger being there, they're definitely going to be having your bigger tanks, so don't worry. Anyway, back to this. Sorry, little rambling on there about tanks. But anyway, we got Breakthrough, which I'm assuming is similar to the Breakthrough ability where you capture territory quicker, right? And then you got Rapid Deployment, which again quickly deploys units. The Assault Grenadiers, Logistics Trucks, which I'm assuming is similar to the Elbow Blitz Truck for resources you lock down in territory. Blitzkrieg, we already know what that is. Versing a command tank, it's really going to be how good is that command tank? How good is that bonus? And then also we got ourselves, let's see, Smoke Bombing Run, which could be very good for just helping break through enemy lines. There's Incendiary as well, with the Mechanized Assault Group. Now we saw with the other thing, they were fine with putting two units together. The Mechanized Assault Group in Code 2 was a half-track and a Panzer Grenadier squad. So are they going to do the same thing, where it's two units in one? Again, Code 2 wasn't, people want that changed. Is it going to be the same way in this? What's the cost-benefit analysis for this? That's my big thing. All right, now we go to Luftwaffe, right? Okay, so we got Fallschirmjäger Pioneer groups, which are well-trained pioneers or paratroop to the front line, capable of supporting your army with a myriad of tools and equipment. Lay mines, build defenses, block enemy advances, clear enemy structures with satchel charges. Again, is it cleared, or does the building explode? Like, is it gone? Like, is it just completely annihilated? That's my question. And then you got the GRB-39 grenade launcher, or build weapons and placements to enemy aircraft, infantry, and vehicles alike. You got the Stuka rocket strafe, which I find fascinating for this low line here, including a row of buildings that might be hampered by your plans, right? This plane lays waste to just about anything it hits. So if it does hurt everything, and we'll say infantry does less, let's just for balancing purposes say it's less. If it does do a lot, will the rocket strafe annihilate enemy artillery positions? Because in Code 2, you need a direct strike or artillery strike. Rocket runs don't do that much. But if these ones do, that opens up a new corridor for allowing you to take out enemy and artillery emplacements or enemy emplacements in general, or artillery in general, a lot easier, which could be very good. And also, the cream of the crop, the Flak 36 88mm is going to be in this game, which, again, will fire at planes, and then we'll aim down and annihilate armor. So, I find that fascinating that's going to be in here, because if you have a solid infantry defense, and this, I'm assuming the rate of fire is going to be slower, right? It has to be slower. But, if it can hit air units and then ground targets, I'm gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna enjoy the units so much, because I always like having anti-air, but then also it's still good at fighting vehicles. That's a win. The question would be as well, can it fire through buildings? Like, can it fire like the Pak-43 straight through a building, hit targets? Because that's what the Pak-43 is really good at, is surprise hits from just out of nowhere. So anyway, unlocking stuff, you get the Fallschirmjäger Pioneer Paradrop. Then you get the infantry reserves, which I'm assuming is similar to like the Ostrupen reserves you get for the Wehrmacht, where if you lose a bunch of men before, you use munitions, and however men you lose, you get Ostrupen or frontline units. The Luftwaffe combat group, again, I'm curious, is this just like a group of Fallschirmjägers? Like, what is this? There's no details, so I'm just not gonna guess, because it could also be maybe... Yeah, I'm not going to guess. I have no idea. Heavy weapon airdrop. Is this going to be guns? Like, actual, like, resources you can give to Fallschirmjägers, or, in this case, Grenadiers or something? Or, like, is it like a MG or a AT gun of some sort? The Flak 36 emplacement, again, I feel like this will be a nice little favorite between people. You got the recon run and strafing run. Strafing run is literally a run, so it's not a loiter. So most likely, I'm assuming this is an MG run, which I would actually prefer the recon run, so I can know what the enemy has. Then you got the Fallschirmjägers, butterfly bombs, or Stuka rocket strafes. Well, if the Stuka is good against all targets, I feel like I want the rockets. Especially if you want to make sure you're really good against armor, and also can target enemy artillery that's further in the back. Or just in general target like armor or emplacements or anything that's not infantry. That's where I see this, where this is more, I'm assuming, defined toward anti-infantry. But that's pretty much it. Again, I find it fascinating with a lot of this stuff. And again, I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think in the comments. I know there's a couple comments down here, and I kind of read over these. Some of them I think are interesting. Some of them say that, like, oh, it's just the same thing. And yeah, some of these abilities could be similar to Coh-2 or Coh-1, but I feel from the pre-alpha that I played that they did do enough to change things up. And like, for example, the Assault Grenadiers, having them being an upgrade for Grenadiers, unless I'm mistaken, doesn't that fundamentally change the gameplay, at least from Coh-2? So they are doing enough to make it unique, at least in my eyes. And again, it's really going to be more in the nitty gritty, like how do these separate things affect each other, right? How does the logistics truck and resources and what it generates affect you getting other abilities? How good are these abilities? Like, is the airstrike actually worth it? Like, how good is the incendiary bombing run? Does it melt infantry, or does infantry have time to retreat? That's also going to be something in balancing to really make things preferable over other things. I also find it unique that you could theoretically have two people pick the same commander, or in this case, battle group, and it is separate enough in terms of the picks that you could have two separate strategies, or multiple different strategies or units deployed, even if it's the same one, which kind of stops my general hatred toward people picking the exact same doctrine like 4 times as a spam. And then they complain, well, I lost because, the enemy used an OP strat. No, you just all picked the same strat and they just countered it. Like, here, at least, there's a little more variation between them. So you could have similar units, but they're used slightly differently, which could be enough to stop, let's say, one counter to your plan from just stopping you dead in your tracks. But hey, that's my thoughts on this matter. What do you guys think? Leave it down below. But otherwise, that's my thoughts on the battle group. Again, from what I currently see in the chart, we're going to be going over multiplayer maps. which could be interesting. I might do something on that. Next up is matchmaking and rankings. Again, I don't feel like I would really have much to say on that. It's like, oh, cool. You can match up. I feel like a better examination of matchmaking could be with Age of Empires 4. Because again, that just released. And if they're taking what they've learned from other games and adding it to this game, Age of Empires 4 I'm really liking, and it has a lot of really cool things that makes it a lot smoother experience for me than when I play KOTOR 2. So if that's what they're taking into KOTOR 3, I think like that's a good blueprint for that stuff. So maybe if there's enough there, maybe I'll compare and contrast with what they're saying and how that compares with a recent title and KOTOR 2. Supply lines and economy, I think that's doing with the overall map. Animations could be fun, and of course they're taking a holiday break because again, you should get plenty of time to rest, relax, and well, enjoy your holiday. But yeah, no, that's my general thoughts and what I might be doing. Again, it's gonna be curious to see what happens in the future and how much info they release. Because again, if it's something minor, I don't want to bother and waste your guys' time. I feel like this is enough where it's 4 battle groups where there's enough here to talk about and discuss that I feel like it's worthy of a discussion and kind of gives you an idea of what, you know, the British could have or what the other US and Wehrmacht battle groups could be. So anyway, that's what I think. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, and again, remember, you can put in your own input. There's a Company of Heroes Discord you can join. They have this code development blog, which plenty of people are posting updates on, and it looks like comments on about what they would add and what they would change. So that's awesome. And again, I'm glad to see people putting in comments in terms of what they believe should be changed. May not agree with all of them, but it's good that there is feedback on it. So that's awesome. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. This has been Greyshot17, and I'll see all of you guys next time. Hey guys, before you go, I want to give a special shout out to Patreon supporters Folkvard, Aphyria, Joey G240, Ace, ShinobiWarrior, Pyroshark, Little Koosh, and Seth Kuipers. Thank you all for your incredible support. You guys rock. This has been Greyshot17 and his amazing patrons, and I'll see all of you next time.